I may not be a quantum physicist or anything like that, but I still would like to present to you a theory that I've cooked up here. One that I'm nowhere near qualified enough to speak on with good authority, but one I'm going to present with confidence anyway. I'm going to punch above my weight class to deliver an important truth about our universe that will open your third eye, and trust me, this is going to be a shocking revelation. I believe at some point along our developmental path, we have overlapped with a parallel universe. I will dub our original timeline the Berenstein Bears timeline because that's what the books were known as when I was a child. And at some point along our history, our timeline collided with the Berenstain timeline, and the two performed a bit of a fusion dance, an unholy matrimony, and merged together, forming this amalgamation of nightmares we now live in, our new cursed timeline. And one of the effects of the timeline isn't just Berenstein Bears being changed to Berenstain, it's also, seemingly, the fixation every successful company has on self-destruction. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but some of the most successful companies in the world are making the absolute dumbest decisions. It's as if when the timelines collided, all of the leaders of these companies got banished to the doofus dimension and got replaced by an entire fucking circus. All of these clowns now in charge, bozo, are doing the dumbest things ever, sinking their companies. And the most recent example is Ubisoft. Ubisoft just proudly announced that they are actually willing to shut down inactive Ubisoft accounts, which means deleting all of the games you paid for, getting rid of your access to those games. Now, before going into this story in particular, I'll go ahead and preface this by saying this isn't necessarily new, that's not groundbreaking. Steam, for example. If you get banned on Steam, like if you get your Steam account taken away, you lose your games. Basically, when you're buying a digital good on Steam, you're kind of just paying for, like, the receipt saying that you can play it. Like, you're paying for an admission ticket, but you can always get kicked out. You don't own anything, which is why physical media is still a very important thing. But before I really dive in here, I want to thank today's sponsor.
Holy shit, are you playing Watcher of Realms?
I am.
Well, tell me about it. I've heard about it.
Watcher of Realms is a next-gen fantasy RPG where you explore the mysterious continent of Taya and collect over 100 heroes. Watcher of Realms isn't like other games you're used to. There's skill casting, character synergy, hero matching, and more, which adds a very nice layer of skill and strategy to it. You collect gear, artifacts, and skill dust to upgrade your heroes to give you an edge in battle. You can also team up with your guild partners to challenge the epic dragon and rush to the top of rankings. Watcher of Realms looks beautiful. It's 3D models for each hero with custom animations, and of course it comes with fantastic soundtrack as well.
There's over 30 races, like humans, elves, demons. There's 6 unique classes you can play, 8 factions, and you can enjoy just the rich storylines of the continent of Taya. You deploy your heroes, use your skills at the right time, and kind of, use that to get an edge in battle.
There's even an event going on right now for the launch of the game where you can join the Game Theorists and Jay Schlatt's team in order to compete for rewards using the link below. So thanks again for Watcher of Realms for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to use the link or scan the QR code on screen to check out the game today. So let's dive in. It all started with this Twitter post here saying, Ubisoft closes your account if you haven't logged in for some time. You will lose all your games purchased forever. And then it shows a screenshot of the email they had received saying that they're temporarily suspending the inactive Ubisoft account and will be permanently closing it in 30 days in accordance to their terms. But if you wish to keep this account, then you've got to click on the link that's in the email below. Now, when I first saw this, I thought it was maybe a bit of baloney here. I didn't know if it was legitimate or maybe this was like some kind of isolated incident or some kind of like fringe outlier where the account must have done something, had violations or something, and now it's been collecting dust. I just thought there was extenuating circumstances. Because, like, with Steam, you're usually not just getting banned willy-nilly. No one's losing their Steam account for not logging in for, like, a long period of time, I don't think. At least not that I know of. So this was certainly a first, and it was an eye-opener. Because Ubisoft did confirm this. They went into the replies and said this. Hey there. No exclamation point. You make me sick, Ubisoft support. At least show some excitement here. Get some enthusiasm behind the statement. Hey there with just a period? How monotone. I can feel that you don't even want to be in the replies. We just wanted to chime in that you can avoid the account closure by logging into your account within the 30 days since receiving the email pictured and selecting the cancel account closure link contained in the email. We certainly do not want you to lose access to your games or account, so if you have any difficulties logging in, then please create a support case with us, and then linking ubisoft.com/help. So they do confirm that this is a real policy, and if you don't click that cancel account closure link, you're losing your account and you're losing all the games that you have paid for. No negotiation. Ubisoft is shutting the doors and they're taking your toys, and that's pretty hard. Like that's kind of aggressive, I would say. So I did a little bit more digging here, and according to this article that I was reading, they do make this policy pretty clear, though it's one that I was unfamiliar with, and I'm guessing a lot of other people were unfamiliar with as well. This article comes from Windows Central and says that on their website, they detail the policy against inactive accounts. Please be reassured that Ubisoft does not automatically close inactive accounts. As part of our terms of use, in rare instances, we may immediately close inactive accounts to comply with local data protection legislation. This is only if we have strong reasons to believe that the account in question will remain unused. I don't know how they would have reasons to believe that an account will be unused unless they have like a death certificate of the person who owned the account. Like, you'd never be able to say with a high level of certainty who's never coming back, right? Like, how would they have access to that kind of information? But regardless, they go on saying that they may also close long-term inactive accounts to maintain their database. You'll be notified by email if we begin the process of closing your inactive account. And if your account was flagged as inactive and you would like to keep using it, you can cancel the closure of your Ubisoft account and then find the link for the cancellation in the Ubisoft email. And then there's some more mumbo jumbo about checking your spam folder just in case and this and that. But it does confirm that they will delete inactive accounts from time to time, and that does mean losing all of the games that you paid for. I still don't really understand the reason for it. It doesn't make much sense to me. The only time this ever makes any sense to me is in the case of cheaters. If someone's cheating in an online game, obviously banning them makes sense. Yes, they may have paid for the product, but that doesn't mean that they get to go in there and cheat in the game. And they should be banned for it, which does restrict access to the game they paid for. But it's their fault. They fucked themselves. They broke the rules. Whereas here, no one's breaking any rules. They're just not active on Ubisoft. For good reason. Uplay's a fucking laughable joke of a service, so maybe there's just nothing that's bringing them back and they haven't been back for a while. Why should they lose access to all of the games they fucking paid for? When it comes to like a single player game, or really any game aside from cheating in multiplayer games, when you pay for it, you own it forever and should always have access to it because you bought it. But that's just not the way things really work when it comes to digital goods. And there's always just kind of been like this handshake agreement that, you know, you bought this on our service, so you do have it, you can play it whenever you want. Until we tell you you can't. And here they're saying you can't based on some arbitrary distinction of you've been gone too long. You're too inactive, so we're deleting you. Which I think is really fucking dumb. That should be illegal to do that, if you ask me. And let me explain why I think this is a horrible decision from Ubisoft. Why I think this is a particularly detrimental financial move for Ubisoft and other companies that follow suit is because it incentivizes people to not buy the official product. It encourages piracy. And not just this, but also the overly aggressive DRM a lot of games implement that actually makes the games play worse is begging people to pirate the game instead because they get a more functional version of the game and they actually get to own it. When you pirate a game, you own the game. That can't be taken away from you. Whereas if you buy the official game, if you just don't log into your Ubisoft account enough, you might just lose what you paid for. They might just deem you gone too long. You know, you went to the store to get milk and didn't come back in time, so now all of the games you bought from Ubisoft, you can't access anymore. The shit you paid for, you can't play. I don't know how companies that have been around as long as Ubisoft has, or been as successful as Ubisoft has, are all of a sudden just missing the most basic concepts here. The water in their facility must be contaminated with a stupid juice infestation. I don't get it. Because the number one thing to combat piracy is a better service. It's not more DRM. It's not making things more difficult. It's making things easier, more convenient, faster, and better. You get a better product when you buy the official one. You get it quicker, you get it easier, less headache. It's just a better service. That's what beats piracy. But for some reason, companies like Ubisoft are going in the opposite direction where they're making a worse product and worse service for anyone that's trying to legitimately buy it and engage with the official products, thus pushing people to piracy. It's something that everyone has mentioned like 1,000 times over the last few years. It's not just like a hot take from me or like a galaxy brain observation from me. This is basic shit that a company like Ubisoft should be able to recognize. It's just dumb. Like, it's a silly policy to have. There's no way that it like somehow makes them money or saves them money or even like really frees up space or bandwidth for them or anything. It is just nonsensical. It's just dumb. It's just fucking silly. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this because this is just another example of another very successful company making the stupidest decisions for really no reason and no benefit. That's about it. See ya. Hi there. I'm about to go on a passionate, joyful rant, so please ensure that your seatbelt is buckled, because I'm about to torpedo my opinions at you like the logs out of Final Destination 1. I am so beyond disgusted and tired of modern greedy video game pricing, and the biggest proponent behind this criminal level of greed is Ubisoft. I've said for the last 3 or so years that nothing makes me lose faith in an upcoming game quicker than seeing a Ubisoft original appear in the trailer. If I was a member of their evil syndicate think tank, my number one suggestion to the board of directors would be hide Ubisoft as much as possible from the credits of these games so people don't know that they're behind these productions. Bury it somewhere so that way people have to go looking to unearth the truth, because no one likes Ubisoft. I'd have more optimism about an upcoming game if it said it was a Bernie Madoff masterpiece. Like, I'd trust anyone more than Ubisoft. I think they have produced almost exclusively stinkers over the last like 5, 6, maybe even 7 years. Aside from, of course, Rainbow Six Siege, which I think is just an accidental hit for them. And it's an older game, it's a 9-year-old game, and I think the reason that it continues to do well is because Ubisoft forgets that they're involved with it, so they let it do its own thing. But anything Ubisoft gets its grubby little mitts in just is a disaster. Anyone remember the Avatar Legends of Pandora that came out less than a year ago? Didn't think so. And in fact, I bet you didn't even register that I got the name wrong. I double checked. It came out 6 months ago and it's actually called Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. But I imagine some of you watching this did play it and totally forgot about its existence, just like Men in Black Neuralizered out of your mind, but because it was so boring that your brain did its best to defend you from the tedium. It is just a fucking snooze fest that I guarantee you sleptwalk through. Just like mindlessly wandering around in this fugue state of this Ubisoft open world formula that they run into the ground. It's just fucking pitiful productions that they've been behind for the last 5 or 7 years. But before I get too deep into this Ubisoft hate wagon that I'm just vomiting out here, I do want to passionately be excited about something. The GamerSupps waifu cup with me on it, baby. The most beautiful cup you've ever seen in your life. Look at this goblet. That's me. But yeah, it's available right now at gamersupps.gg. I'll put a link to it in the description. Go ahead and pick that up right now. But the point is, Ubisoft, I don't think has made good games in a while, and I include Assassin's Creed in this. I haven't enjoyed Assassin's Creed in so long. The last good one, and this isn't a controversial opinion, was Black Flag. And I didn't enjoy Black Flag as much as everyone else, but I can recognize that it was probably the last good Assassin's Creed game. And I play all of them. I try them all. Except I only lasted like 4 hours in Mirage because it was such a fucking snooze fest. And Valhalla, I think, is the only time I've ever fallen asleep on stream. Like, they're just boring games. And this is all a long-winded precursor to what I want to talk about today, which is the newest Assassin's Creed game, Shadows, which of course Ubisoft is behind. Now there's a lot of controversy around this, a ton of drama because of the main character here, or one of the main characters. I don't give a fuck about it. I'm just going to tell you right now up top, I'm going to rip the band-aid off. I don't care. I legitimately could not care less about the historical accuracy of the Assassin's Creed franchise. That means about as much to me as the tiny hairs around my asshole. It is truly worthless to me. I wouldn't care if you played as Dabi the House Elf in the new Feudal Japan Assassin's Creed game. Doesn't matter as long as it's a good game, which I don't think that will be because I have no faith in Ubisoft and even less faith in Assassin's Creed. But what I do care about greatly is the pricing that Ubisoft is spearheading here. They just did this for Star Wars Outlaws with like the $100 plus versions, and now they're doing it again for Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I am so fucking tired of it. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. These are your pricing options for the different editions of Assassin's Creed Shadows. So, for the standard edition, it's $70, but you have to pre-order it if you want access to a pre-order exclusive mission. The mission's called Thrown to the Dogs, and the only way you get access to this, it seems, is if you've pre-ordered the game, which they haven't even shown any motherfucking gameplay for yet. I think that is the biggest load of barnacles ever. You're just pre-ordering based off of a cinematic trailer alone. It's a terrible, shameful thing to ask of the consumer, but that's Ubisoft in a nutshell. They're completely shameless. Moving on to the Gold Edition, you get the pre-order bonus plus a Season Pass and 3-day early access. Season Pass in a single-player game is probably one of the most embarrassing things ever that's become commonplace. If I was the goober at Ubisoft that came up with the idea of single-player Season Passes, I would never share that information with anybody ever. You wouldn't be able to torture that out of me at Guantanamo Bay. Batman couldn't beat that shit out of me. That is so fucking embarrassing. And in this case, it's especially egregious because the Season Pass for the Gold Edition includes a mission, so it's just paywalling even more content of the game behind the Season Pass and the higher price tag. And let's talk about that 3-day early access real quick, because I've seen a lot of discussion around it, and they're making great points about it. For 110 clams, you're not paying to play the game 3 days early, you're paying to play it on time. If you pay $70, you're playing the game 3 days late. So it's not early access. For 110 bones, you play the game when it comes out, and unless you fork over the additional 40, you play the game 3 days late. That's how it works. That is extraordinarily anti-consumer. Like, increasing the amount of money just to play the game when it fucking releases is absurd. And then we move on to the Ultimate Edition. For $130, you get pay-to-win elements in a single-player game. 5 skill points and then like a bunch of cosmetics. I'm gonna get a little mean here with some tough love. If you have to pay an additional $60 just for a little bonus pay-to-win in your single-player game, I think you need to take a hard look in the mirror and just recognize that maybe gaming's just not for you. Like, if that's the only way you'll enjoy the game is being able to, like, pay to win through a single-player game, I think maybe, take up a different kind of hobby. I feel like such a fucking Redditor gatekeeping gaming, but that is so unbelievably silly to pay an additional $60 for 5 skill points and then a couple of cosmetics. Like, I'm sure the cosmetics will look cool, but they're not worth almost paying the exact same price as the game itself just to get some cosmetics for it. That is a crazy thing to ask of people. Then, of course, there's the final option here, which is getting the Ultimate Edition through Ubisoft Plus, which is their own cringe subscription service for $18 a month. Because every single fucking thing on the planet has a subscription service now behind it. I bet there's going to be a subscription service for Mr. Bean, like Mr. Bean Extra On Demand Turbo Arcade, even though there's only 15 episodes of Mr. Bean that have ever aired and they're all freely accessible on YouTube right now. But I bet they'll probably come out with some kind of Mr. Bean subscription in the next few years. That's just the number one trend that every tech company follows now, and Ubisoft is of course no stranger to that. So they have Ubisoft Plus, which hopefully they have less than double digits of users signed up to that, because I don't know who in their right mind would sign up for Ubisoft Plus. But anyway, that's the other option of getting the Ultimate Edition. I hate the direction Ubisoft is trying to push AAA gaming. I hate this pricing scheme. I think it's terrible. It was bad when they did it with Star Wars Outlaws. It's bad that they're doing it with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I'm really hoping that it flops extraordinarily hard so that way more AAA companies don't try and emulate it. Because I have no doubt there's a lot of companies paying close attention to what Ubisoft's doing here. And if it's successful, they'll probably employ similar tactics. And that would just be bad for everybody. So I wanted to vent about this a little bit. I think it super sucks. I hate where Ubisoft is trying to take the industry. So yeah, I kind of wanted to just rant about this a little bit and get it all out of my system. I'm still going to try Assassin's Creed Shadows because I still give every single game that comes out a try for the most part to see if maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised and proven wrong. So far, the safest bet I'll ever be able to make is that the newest Assassin's Creed game is going to be boring. That's been proven true time and time and time and time and time again for me personally, but maybe Shadows is the one to break that streak. And if it does, great, but it's still not going to change the way I feel about how Ubisoft is monetizing it. I think it is horrible for the industry overall. Even if the game comes out and it's great, I still can't stand what Ubisoft has done with their monetization of these games. I think it is fucking atrocious. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Good afternoon, my fellow gamers. As all of you know, I am one of you. I am an avid enjoyer of gaming. It's been a huge part of my life for my entire life. It's in my veins. It's in my blood. It's embedded deep in my DNA. My body isn't powered by a heart. It's powered by another graphics card. It's a 4090 in here that's keeping this flesh mech suit online. I'm like Tony Stark, but nerdier. Anyway, I feel as though I'm the only one qualified to give you the state of gaming address for 2024. Now, I've seen a lot of groaning and moaning, a lot of whining and complaining, a bunch of hoo-wee and hoo-ha and yee-haw about gaming industry is dying. It's this festering wound. It needs a huge change, this and that. And while I agree with some of the sentiment, I actually think there are signs that the industry is going in a better direction overall. And I'll explain what I mean, but I want to start with something obvious. A lot of the $70 games we've been getting recently are just terrible. Not even worth playing, definitely not worth paying $70 for, such as Suicide Squad, and most recently, the first quadruple A game, according to Ubisoft, Skull and Bones. Suicide Squad has flopped, its player count has plummeted to under 1,000 players on Steam, and this is a live service game. This isn't just one of those like single player games where you expect a massive drop off. This is one of those things that's supposed to live on for a long time that gets people hooked like heroin. But the only thing it got them hooked on was the idea of better games, because that shit is miserable. So that game has been largely a failure, and now Skull and Bones seems to be following suit, which is Ubisoft's latest super stinker, which is a ship combat game without boarding. So it takes out the most fun part about being a pirate, the boarding, and reduces it to just being a cutscene. Quadruple A my ass. Unless all of those A's stand for different adjectives for how bad it is. Abominable, awful, abysmal, asinine. Like, it's so stupid to me how this game is out there right now in its beta or whatever for $70 when it doesn't even have boarding. Fucking Assassin's Creed Black Flag a decade ago has better ship combat and a lot more fun experience of being a pirate. It's crazy. I will not be playing Skull and Bones. I want to make it clear. I've only watched the streamers play it as well as the reviews on it, and I think it is in an inexcusably bad state. This is just blatant garbage that's being put out here for a quick payday and a big infusion of cash. I don't foresee them ever actually making this game good. I'll go ahead and put it on record here. We can check back in on this in 2 years if Skull and Bones happens to be the next biggest game on the planet. That's amazing. But I just don't see that happening, especially not with Ubisoft at the helm. It looks so painfully mediocre at best. The best compliment I've seen anyone give Skull and Bones is that it's mediocre. Can you imagine that? Paying $70 for mediocrity and doing it with a smile on your face? Because I can't. And you shouldn't accept it either. And this is where I get into the positive news. Where a lot of these games have increased their price and decreased their quality, the gap in the market has only widened for people hungry for actually good games. And that gap has been filled by smaller studios making smaller games. So like the $40 price tag games, for example. Those have been dominating 2024. Pal World breaking all of the records, basically. And now, most recently, Helldivers 2 having this amazing blow up. Over 400,000 concurrent players right now for Helldivers 2, and it's only growing by the day. And Helldivers 2 is an amazing game. It's full of passion and fun. I think it's one of the best co-op experiences I've had since Lethal Company. And speaking of Lethal Company, that's another example to what I'm saying. Last year we saw Lethal Company come out and absolutely spank the cheeks of the gaming industry. Had it bent over their knee disciplining them, showing them how it can be done if you just make a fun game. It's a cheap game made by a single developer, and it took the whole industry by storm for a while, and it's still popular to this day. So we're seeing these games pop up that aren't blockbusters by any means. They're not $100 million production, fucking 10 years in development hell. You know, these are games made by smaller teams that just deliver unique and fun experiences. And it shows how hungry gamers are for that kind of product. I've said for a while, the future of gaming is not in more AAA titles that get more and more expensive to produce and spend more and more time in development. It's these games, these like AA games coming out that are cheaper, a lower price point, and still offering many hours worth of fun to players. And we're seeing that right now, and you're seeing how they're being rewarded with this level of success. And I think that is a great sign for things to come. I'm hoping this will start to push developers away from just pumping out this formulaic by the numbers generic garbage like Suicide Squad, trying to capitalize off buzzword genres like live service nonsense, even though there's nothing in there that makes the game actually worth playing. Or most recently with Ubisoft just putting out the most bare bones pirate game ever, just to try and capitalize off that as well. I'm hoping companies will start to pay more attention to the success of these $40 games, these smaller games, and shift to that direction. Instead of spending 5 years developing a pile of mediocre garbage, why not spend a year or so developing something that's much smaller in scale, but tries to do something different that is just a fun game for maybe like 10, 15 hours even. You don't need a game that's going to keep a player hooked for like 80 hours plus by just delivering more escort missions like Suicide Squad aims to do. You can be satisfied by delivering like a $20 to $40 game that gives a player 15 hours worth of fun and they're done with it by the end. That's totally fine. You get your money's worth, and that makes me excited. Now, granted, the 3 examples I've given of these massive games that are smaller teams, smaller price, Pal World, Helldivers 2, Lethal Company, those games have tons and tons and tons of hours worth of content in them for you to enjoy. But I still think there's nothing wrong if the industry shifts to making smaller games that are only like 15 hours worth of entertainment, as long as it's a really unique experience and it's fun to play. I think you will get your money's worth, and the price point being at that 20 to 40 range. Like the $70 price tag should be reserved for the really meaningful titles, like a GTA 6 style thing. Obviously, that's the most extreme example. But when you see a $70 price tag for something, you're expecting the highest level of quality. But right now, when you see $70 or $60, it's you could be getting the worst game of the year. Fucking Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash is a $60 game right now, and that game is unforgivably awful. And I think it's good news that these AAA developers are not being rewarded for it. Like, again, Suicide Squad flopping, Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash, the most refunded game in history, I believe, according to one of the articles I read, which makes sense because anyone that bought that game actually got scammed. Actually, just completely full-blown blatant scam, so it makes sense everyone would be refunding it. Like, and Skull and Bones looking like it's going to be a flop. All of these big budget productions that are being sold for $60 to $70 are not really turning a big profit for these companies. So I feel like they're going to start to pay a lot more attention to the smaller budget titles and the titles that they can actually do more with, because you won't need to invest years upon years of development time to it. You instead just need to invest into a good idea and a passionate team that can deliver something fun for a reasonable price. Like, it's that simple. And we're seeing this proven time and time again now, more often now than ever. So I actually like the direction the gaming industry is going right now, because we're rewarding some of the more unique titles, the more fun titles like the Helldivers. Like, it's nice to see that. Recently, the most popular games haven't been dominated by AAA blockbusters just bullying indie titles or anything. It's actually been the smaller studios, the smaller, cheaper games that are annihilating the big boys on the block. And I just think that's great. So I'm excited to see if this trend continues throughout 2024. It's still very early. We haven't seen the biggest heavy hitters of 2024 come out yet. So I guess that remains to be seen how exactly it's all going to shape up. But I wanted to talk about it a little bit because it put a smile on my face seeing the success of Helldivers today. Helldivers was really like the catalyst that made me want to talk about it, because I really love everything they've done with that game. And I love to see a game like that being rewarded in the way that it is. And I hope we see more things like it throughout the year, and just generally in the future of gaming. I really hope we can start getting away from all of these massive $100 million games that just are soulless, just cash grabs, and we get back to having more AA titles out there. I remember in the Xbox 360 era, early in the 360's lifespan, there were so many games coming out from so many different studios that just had all kinds of creative ideas that they were just throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck. And sometimes you had some hidden gems, some bangers. But nowadays, in the mainstream gaming space, these giant players only invest heavily into like 1 or 2 projects and put all of their eggs in that basket. And most of the time, it's not turning a profit anymore, because the games just aren't really hitting. Like, some of them are, of course, obviously. But there's been so many flops recently that you just keep hearing about. It's not sustainable. You can't have every game take 6 years in development and cost 9 figures to develop. It's not going to work long term. So I really think the future is back into that $20 to $40 price range on games, smaller in scale, smaller in scope and development time, and you produce some interesting shit. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. That's kind of where I think everything is in the gaming industry right now, and I'm pretty optimistic for the future of it. That's really about it. So yeah. With the amount of tomatoes I've thrown at Ubisoft over the last couple of years, I could run Heinz out of business. It is incredibly easy to hate this company, and they make it clear that they deserve it. They are not shy about telling you how much they hate you. They've become infamous for the "you will own nothing and be happy" mentality. They have even point blank said that gamers need to be comfortable not owning their games. This is a company that every step of the way chooses all of the wrong options during the QuickTime events. They are not even accidentally saying things that anyone could appreciate, even the most die-hard Ubisoft Formula fans, if such a creature even exists at this point. They can't even unintentionally say something agreeable. Even as their stock price plummets, fucking death spirals, they somehow dig deeper. This is the equivalent to the captain of a sinking ship turning on all the sink faucets to try and fill it up with even more water as much as possible. I cannot understand it. Today, they've gone on quite the spree here, an entire montage of bad takes from Ubisoft, and I have to make fun of them again. I actually have to. Keep in mind, this company is so misguided. They released multiple NFT games only a year ago. And NFTs are dead and buried, and somehow Ubisoft is still pooping those puppies out. It's crazy how out of touch Ubisoft is. In order to prove that the stupid juice is still flowing deeply at Ubisoft headquarters to this day, let's go ahead and show you their most recent annual financial report where they talk about their microtransactions and how microtransactions are actually a good thing because it allows their players to experience more fun. Very reminiscent of that time EA defended Battlefront controversial decisions by claiming that it was intended to give players a sense of pride and accomplishment. You can catch a slight whiff of that aroma here in the Ubisoft financial report with that statement. And I also can't help but giggle at the first line in their financial report where they try and claim that they're an industry leader in this sector. What a load of fucking barnacles. Get a load of this guy. Maybe at one point in time they were, but these days they are just a public spittoon for people to walk by and hawk loogies on. They are a sad shell of their former self. But this is all public. You can all read it yourself if you want to put your peepers on it. Down here is where you can find this statement: the adoption of monetization and engagement policies that respect the player experience and are sustainable in the long term. At Ubisoft, the golden rule when developing premium games is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more. Our monetization offer within premium games makes the player experience more fun by allowing them to personalize their avatars or progress more quickly. However, this is optional. How delusional can you be? It's not even like a good lie. The motivator for these microtransactions that they are ham-fisting into every single game of theirs for the last decade is solely driven by wanting to hose the consumer for more money beyond the initial purchase of the game. Trying to squeeze some more coins out of the piggy banks of the players, hoping that some of the whales will pay to maybe speed progress up like they mention. And while yes, it is optional, there is a little something called pay to win, and it is a very real thing. It's not some make-believe boogeyman. But even in cases where you're offering microtransactions in single-player games, which Ubisoft loves to do, that's not exactly something worth celebrating, because now you're devoting resources into trying to find ways to get more money out of this single-player game, when those resources could have been devoted to just making the game better in the first place, something that Ubisoft seems very against. Their games fall into the same formula and have been for so long now that people are beyond tired of it, and instead of trying to find ways to breathe new life into their titles, they instead try and find new ways of monetizing them through these microtransactions and shit. It's so tone-deaf as well, and it shows very clearly that they don't even see player feedback, because every single Ubisoft game that comes out that is riddled, infected with microtransactions, like every Assassin's Creed now, you find collective sighs from even the most loyal supporters of the franchise. People aren't happy with it. And here they are just completely ignoring it and trying to spin it as a positive thing. Like, oh, it's always optional. Like, it actually like goes over really well because, I mean, it's personalized fun, right? Who wouldn't want to pay for that? Am I right? But another thing that also came out here, is Ubisoft's thoughts on the real reason Star Wars Outlaws flopped. They are blaming disinterest in the franchise, which, when it was reported that Outlaws was stumbling and not performing all that well, that was cope they used back then as well, like some whispers of it being like, oh, the IP is just not as strong as it once was. Now they're just coming out here with their whole chest saying, no, the reason Outlaws didn't do well is just because no one cares about Star Wars anymore, which is fucking crazy. They are just refusing to take the L and come to terms with the fact that the reason Outlaws didn't do well is it's just not a good game. And it doesn't even have the decency of being like a laughably horrible game where it could be like entertaining in how shitty it is. It is just so boring. It is like the most safe, by the numbers, bland, sterile, Ubisoft, Ubislop game. It is the same generic, open world Ubisoft experience that we have seen 1,000 times before, and clearly people are tired of. The only difference with this one is it had a Star Wars skin on it, and also some of the worst stealth you'll find. But outside of the worst stealth you'll find, everything else was just serviceable, and it didn't even try to do anything well. It was just content being mid. And Ubisoft has, for some reason, really struggled with accepting the fact that mid just doesn't really cut it anymore. People don't want more Ubisoft open world games. It's been done a billion times the exact same way every time. It's tired and it's played out, and the sales show that with Star Wars Outlaws. It has nothing to do with the weakening of the IP, which is a real thing. Since going to Disney, it hasn't been as strong. A lot of the Disney shows have been super stinkers, but I think there is more evidence to the contrary that there is a hunger for good Star Wars, as demonstrated by Andor. I can't glaze Andor enough. I think that show is a masterpiece, and I think the reception and the absolute booming success of it speaks for that. People want good Star Wars. They're just not getting it often. Very rarely with something like Andor coming out. Star Wars Outlaws falls into the really uninteresting bucket of Star Wars that people just don't want to play with anymore. They don't want to touch, they don't want to indulge with. But there is still very much a lot of people wanting good Star Wars. It has nothing to do with the IP, with why Star Wars Outlaws flopped. But Goober is still trying to write it off as one of the contributing factors that the game suffered from a number of items. First, it suffered from the fact it was released at a time when the brand that it belonged to, was in a bit of choppy water, and then he acknowledges some technical problems, such as things missing polish, but they were polished and debugged early enough, but it had an effect. Which, again, like, yeah, there were some technical issues, but that is not the main reason that it failed, nor is it the strength of the IP during your release window here. You made basically the exact same copy and paste Ubisoft open world game again. No one wants it. Just accept it and do something different. The final little nugget from Ubisoft today is in regards to them loosely addressing Stop Killing Games, or more so, what they believe Stop Killing Games is about. And it's not the best response, but it's also being misrepresented by some publications with what he was actually saying. So apparently, Ubisoft CEO Goober was asked to respond to the movement at a recent shareholders meeting and said, regarding the petition, we operate in a market. And whenever we release a game, we provide a lot of support for that game. We also provide a lot of services to make sure that the game is accessible and remains playable 24/7. Wow, what saints. How unique. These heroes make sure a game is accessible 24/7, huh? That's never been done before. Holy shit. Crazy concept. Whoa. You mean even on weekends you can play your games? It's so stupid. Ubisoft does the absolute bare fucking minimum. Anyway, though, moving on. Goober says that the company provides information regarding the game and how long the game can be played, though he doesn't go into specifics about how those notices work. The crew, this is speaking in particular about the crew, did have a badge on its front box noting online connection required. You should have known better. You weren't actually buying anything. You were paying to rent. We were giving you a permission slip to play our game for however long we deemed worthy. And the notice in the fine print on the back that Ubisoft may cancel access to one or more specific online features upon a 30-day prior notice. Jumping a bit forward, he says, but this kind of issue is not specific to Ubisoft.
All video game publishers are faced with that issue. You provide a service, but nothing is written in stone, and at some point the service may be discontinued. Nothing is eternal. And we are doing our best to make sure that things go well for all players and buyers, because obviously support for all games cannot last forever. The article then notes that this is not what Stop Killing Games is trying to do, trying to get perpetual support for the rest of fucking the galactic existence of these games or whatever. That is, again, not at all what it's looking for. Anyway, though, he goes on to say, the lifespan of a piece of software, whenever there's a service component, eventually services may be discontinued, but eventually the software may become obsolete over time. A lot of tools become obsolete 10, 15 years down the line. They're no longer available, and that is why we release a new version. And so we have version 2 and then version 3, but clearly this is a far-reaching issue, and we're working on it. Now, maybe I'm being too charitable in my interpretation here, but from this statement from him, it sounds more like he is identifying that this issue of games ceasing to exist once the development cycle has concluded is an issue that is not exclusive to just Ubisoft, and currently what Ubisoft does is just pull the plug and give players a notice of the impending doom. And he also makes a mention that games can't be supported by the developers forever, and then goes on to talk about how other tools also become obsolete and don't exist forever. It sounds more to me like he's just making a general statement about it, which he's right. The development on a game can't support it forever, which is why it's not what Stop Killing Games is asking for. It is asking for end-of-life plans, so that way when the development cycle is complete and they want to wash their hands of the product, what they do is they would have a plan in place in order for that game to be turned over in some way so that the community that paid for the game can still access the product they paid money for. It can still exist beyond the developer's need to support it. It is not an unreasonable ask. There have been so many game industry veterans with decades worth of experience in the industry coming forward to talk about how important something like that is and how reasonable and feasible it is as well. It is not some like ridiculous request or anything. It is very much doable. And what a lot of articles have run with from the Ubisoft statement is when he just made a mention of the support for the game can't last forever. And to me, that wasn't like the whole crux of what he was trying to say. And again, maybe I'm being too charitable here to Ubisoft Goober, but with the whole statement, it seems more like he's just identifying it is a far-reaching issue, and it is something that isn't exclusive to Ubisoft, but it is something that he also says that they're working on. It doesn't seem like he was trying to harp on that statement, like, can't support it forever, as like what Stop Killing Games is about. It doesn't really seem like it was targeted and trying to spin Stop Killing Games as that, like I was initially led to believe from the articles that were talking about it. When you see the whole thing, I think it paints a little bit of a different picture. Of course, I'm still no Ubisoft enthusiast here, and of course, Ubisoft isn't exactly happy with this direction, I'm sure, but it doesn't seem like he was trying to misrepresent Stop Killing Games as demanding that we support forever. So, anyway, I still don't love the statement from him, because I still don't love the way they tackle it. I do appreciate that he says they're working on it. I guess we'll see if they actually do. But anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about how Ubisoft is going these days, because, yikes. Not very good. It doesn't seem all that positive for Ubisoft. And I don't know when they're finally going to have their come to Jesus moment and start making good games again and start making decisions that make sense in the industry. That's really about it. So yeah.
Ubisoft has to be one of the dumbest companies on the planet right now. Their stock has been in a free fall for quite some time, and their financial collapse is making Blockbuster blush. Everything they release flops and is received with a collective yawn from pretty much everyone on the planet. And even in the midst of all of this, Ubisoft just stealthily released an NFT game. This has to be part of some kind of grand humiliation ritual. I can't think of any possible explanation for this. Not only are they extremely tardy to the party, they missed that wave by a few years, but they didn't even have the fucking chutzpah to announce it to anyone, meaning nobody has even heard of it aside from just shooting spitballs at it right now. I can only find 2 gameplay videos from any human being that's even touched this game, and both of them have less than 5 views. Not even the most brainwashed, godforsaken crypto bro goobers are giving this the time of day. And I'm talking about those hopeless souls that are still huffing as much copium as their lungs can handle, preaching the gospel of how NFTs aren't dead and are actually overdue for a second coming. Not even that group is touching this. That's mind-boggling to me, because they are clapping seals that will hype up anything that even has the word blockchain or crypto in it. Like with that Flappy Bird NFT scam from a couple months ago. They aren't even looking at this. Looks like every AI-generated ad from Facebook mobile games. There is nothing interesting about that. Nobody gives a fuck. I don't know why Ubisoft put any resources behind it. We need to have a team go out there and investigate what kind of fishy business is afoot at the Ubisoft headquarters. Someone must be pumping galaxy gas through the air vents or something that's turned them all fucking stupid over there. Like, what are they even thinking? What's next for Ubisoft? They're going to try and buy the Concord IP and re-release it as a Ubisoft original? Everything about this idea is terrible, and it gets even sillier when you take a deeper peek at it. So apparently the figurines that you saw battling there in epic combat swag style are NFTs that can be bought on the marketplace from anywhere between $7 and $64,000. If you spend $64,000 on a Ubisoft NFT, you go to hell immediately. The devil makes a special circle just for you. According to the studio director at Ubisoft Paris, the game offers deep strategic gameplay featuring unique in-game assets and several exciting innovations, comparing it to a physical trading card game. I highly doubt that. It looks like the biggest, quickest throwaway pump and dump I've ever seen for one of these crypto games. The team inside the Ubisoft Paris studio developing Champions Tactics Grimoria Chronicles partnered with Ubisoft Strategic Innovation Lab, OASIS, to ensure that our use of blockchain was done in service of delivering new and innovative gaming experiences for our players. Our shared goal is to explore new ways to play alongside, bringing more value to players based on empowerment and ownership. Oh, fuck you. You can suck the dirtiest part of my butthole. The only way we could empower our players is by integrating the blockchain into it and charging up to $64,000 for some figurines in-game. This gives them a sense of accomplishment. Champions Tactics offers deep strategic gameplay featuring unique in-game assets, several exciting innovations. These include millions of procedurally generated figurines, each with distinct stats, assets shaped directly by players' choices, and an open marketplace letting players compose their teams on a peer-to-peer basis, much like a physical trading card game. Oh yeah, get excited, sports fans. Procedurally generated figurines. Yes, perfect. I can't wait to get a god roll on Berserker Knight with double D titties and a cigar, and with the gold mutagen. For months, we have collaborated closely with our community through events and beta phases to build and refine Champions Tactics. We're excited to keep expanding and enhancing the experience together. Ubisoft did not comment on the game's adults-only rating, presumably for its blockchain basis and use of cryptocurrency. Has a fucking adults-only rating? Jesus, it's just insult to injury. I love that they keep saying how excited they are and how amazing it is. Meanwhile, it was quietly released as hush-hush as possible. Yeah, nothing says excitement quite like trying to squeak out a silent fart and hope that no one's around to hear it, dropping this game and hoping nobody puts their eyes on it. Yeah, wow, they're so excited by it. I'd also totally forgotten about this little nugget of Ubisoft lore. In December of 2021, it launched its own NFT platform called Quartz, with Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint as the first game to offer a beta trial. It did not fare well, appearing to have initially only sold 15 NFTs. Jesus Christ, pictures of nutsacks were selling more NFT copies than that. Oh my lord, Ubisoft, how do you sleep at night? That is so embarrassing. And then, of course, they had the gall to blame players. Ubisoft's NFT bosses stated in an interview that players just don't get it. Yeah, it's the players who are wrong, not the soulless zombies at the top of the Ubisoft food chain. They're the guys who get it. We're all just a bunch of dumb, bumbling imbeciles who could never possibly understand the beauty and the innovation behind blockchain gaming and $64,000 NFT figurines. It is painfully obvious to see how Ubisoft continues to fail to such an absurd degree and just circle the shitter. As Ubisoft's money continues to dry up and they continue to scramble and panic internally, they continue to just do the same formula that got them into this pickle in the first place. Releasing bland, open-world games that's just the same exhausting, generic experience over and over again, like the Avatar game, like Star Wars Outlaws. And it's clear from the sales data, like Star Wars Outlaws underperforming so badly for them. Now, even when they do have like a good game that somehow falls between the cracks and they squeak it out from their butt cheeks, like the Prince of Persia game, they do nothing to support it. They just let it fly with no marketing budget behind it to fend for itself and die alone in the cold rain. And it's a shame. Ubisoft just can't grasp the simplest concept that if they start making good games, their stock price will go up. Their sales will go up. Instead of chasing these jackpots, these live service games or games that you can fucking squeeze every single person playing it for as much money as possible to try and get them all to empty their piggy bank and fucking mortgage their house to spend more money on your microtransactions. They should be chasing promising titles that people will be excited for. Nobody is excited for another open world Ubisoft game. Nobody is. Well, I mean, I'm exaggerating. Of course, there are people that like the comfort of like the same formula they're used to. It's cozy. And I'm not saying they're wrong for that, but as is pretty clear from the data, most people are exhausted with it and would rather have new things. So that's where the focus should be. Not NFT moonshots that they're fucking throwing out of nowhere like a jump scare. Not another like Call of Duty killer with X-Defiant. Even though I had fun with X-Defiant for like a week or two, it just wasn't a game that had any real staying power or any actual chance at encroaching on that market share that Call of Duty dominates. It couldn't compete with it. And it's still around, like it still does have a passionate community, but it's not a super home run for Ubisoft like I think they were banking on, because they put a lot of money behind pushing that. To me, and keep in mind, I am just a stupid Cro-Magnon, it seems like a simple solution. Start making good games again. Kind of as easy as that, I think. Simple. You just start making good games again. Give up on the open world live service games and shit like that. Just let it die. Give up on crypto games and the blockchain. You can't even get to the crypto bros who will actually eat any shit you feed them. You can't even get to them. You have no fucking shot. So stop spending money there with things like this new Grimoria Chronicle or whatever, and just start focusing on good games. Just fuck, it's not difficult. I mean, making a good game is difficult, but it's not difficult to pivot away from these $100 million budget titles that aren't giving you any returns. It should be a no-brainer to just wipe your ass with that, take a bath on it, and just instead focus on cheaper titles that could be really good. Right now, Ubisoft's strategy is literally, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. So here's an NFT game, please, some whales, spend money on it, we're begging. Oh my god, it is sickening how stupid Ubisoft is. I just had to clown on them right now after reading about this new game. If you can even call it a game, it's not a game. It's just not. It is just a desperate ploy to try and squeeze some money out of some gullible fools, some suckers. Oh god. Anyway though, that's about it. See ya. Character growth. It's an extremely important tool when it comes to storytelling, and it's also an extremely important part of getting older. As you age, you're going to go through a metamorphosis, both physically and likely mentally as well. So, today I'm going to talk about my recent character growth. You see, my friends, I have grown, not in height, but in wisdom an experience. And I look back at the Charlie of old with disappointment that I could ever be so naive and short-sighted. 5, 6 years ago, maybe, I was a very outspoken advocate of digital downloads. I used to preach the gospel that physical media is a fossil, it's archaic, and we need to wash our hands of it and get into the digital age. Ones and zeros are the future. Tangibility is cringe. How wrong I was. Those words are like venom leaving my lips now. In recent years, I sing a much different tune. I now believe physical media is more important than ever, because we have seen time and time again the evils of not actually owning what you pay for. The reason I'm talking about this is because Ubisoft just went full mask off saying gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games. Fundamentally, that's kind of the point they were boiling down. Basically, he was saying that for subscriptions to truly take off, gamers need to be more comfortable not really owning their products. So I don't have a crystal ball, but when you look at the different subscription services that are out there, we've had a rapid expansion over the last couple of years, but it's still relatively small compared to the other models. One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. It's just about feeling comfortable with not owning your game. Obviously, this statement didn't land super well, just a full-blown faceplant, especially because it's coming from Ubisoft, which is a company that has a worse reputation than asbestos. Nobody really likes Ubisoft in the gaming community, so hearing them say this kind of shit definitely made it taste even worse. But it's also nothing new. It seems everything wants to trend towards subscription-based services, and it's also not even new in gaming to not actually own your games. Biggest example is Steam. When you buy a game on Steam, you don't own it. In fact, in your agreement with Steam, you even agree that if you break the rules with Valve and they shut down your account, you don't get your games back. You don't get refunded and you don't get the games anymore. It dies with the account. So it's not unusual in the space to not actually own your products, but Steam is just a really good service with it that most people have trust in. You know what people have no trust in? Fucking Ubisoft. But going beyond that for just a moment, I truly think it is vital to actually own what you pay for, like a physical copy of it. The biggest example I keep giving is SpongeBob SquarePants. If you wanted to watch SpongeBob SquarePants start to finish right now, you could, it's through streaming services, but you're missing the best episode, the Panty Raid, because it got censored and pulled from streaming services along with another episode as well. So if you wanted the complete SpongeBob experience, you can't get it through the official channels. Your only options are to either have the physical media on the DVD box sets for the seasons, or you pirate it. That's it. I'm going off a little tangent here. I'm taking a dusty little path down a dirt road, but this is something I've talked about a lot recently on stream. When Donkey released his video on all the streaming platforms that are popping up, which is becoming a huge headache because there are more streaming platforms popping up than there are stars in the night sky, you can't really get a convenient experience anymore because everything is so divided. The best example Donkey provided was for trying to watch the entire Pokemon series. You have to go to like 15 different streaming platforms back and forth. So like seasons 1 through 5 on one, season 6 on another, then back to that first one for season 7. Then you have to go to like a completely separate one for season 8 and 9, and then to the fifth one for season 10. Like it's just all over the place, broken up like fucking Dragon Balls across the internet. It's becoming extremely expensive, extremely hard to keep track of what you can watch where. You have to be like Charles Xavier and Cerebro with all these different streaming services pop up just to connect the dots on watching a complete series or a complete series of movies, because they're all over the place with different deals, leading to them being scattered like Horcruxes. It's a fucking nuisance. And it's significantly more expensive than if you had just bought the physical media. You could save so many doubloons as if you just purchased the complete series of it physically and own it, actually own it. And in that situation, you don't lose access to it unless you misplace it or throw it in the trash or a burglar breaks in and steals it. They have to pry it from your cold dead hands to get your fucking complete Pokemon DVD set. But through streaming services, you are inevitably going to lose it because things come and go from streaming platforms every fucking day. So eventually, what you paid access for to get is going somewhere else, and you're probably going to have to buy a subscription to another service to continue to have access to it. It super sucks. And if anyone's got their thinking caps on here, all roads lead to piracy here. I'm not advocating for piracy, mind you. I'm just saying it's a natural byproduct by offering such a dog shit service. It was actually Gabe Newell of Valve who famously said, piracy is a service problem, meaning that if you're providing a bad service, it's going to lead to people pirating your shit because it's significantly easier than going through the proper channels. And that's the point we've reached. If you're trying to legally purchase things or go through the official means of getting what you want, it's a headache and it's hard. If you just pirate it, not only is it easier, but you also get the complete package and it's not going anywhere if they decide to take it to a different streaming platform, or in the case of gaming, if they decide to like take the game down or shut it off or something like that. You own it. That's another huge benefit. And you get the complete experience like with SpongeBob, where you get the episodes that are currently censored. So all of this is just increasing piracy prevalence. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, Ubisoft and all of the other suits that for some reason aren't seeing what every other sane person in the world is. It's just baffling because it doesn't take a genius to see this. Everyone sees how frustrating it is. And for Ubisoft to say like, hey, you know what? It's time you get more comfortable not owning your games. It's really out of touch. Especially, again, from Ubisoft. Keep in mind, they offer Uplay, which is probably the biggest joke the gaming community has ever been subjected to. And the only ones laughing at that comedy is Ubisoft, how they got away with releasing something so trash. It's baffling how bad Uplay is, but that's a whole different can of worms. Point is, right now, I think it is more important than ever to actually own what you pay for. I've just had a complete perspective shift on this topic over the last couple of years because we keep seeing how detrimental it is when you don't actually own the product here, in gaming in particular. So yeah, I think Ubisoft is not wrong about this being kind of the future for gaming, where it's probably going to end up with everything offering some kind of subscription-based service, but it's not exactly a future to start pumping your fist over. I really do think owning the product is extremely important now, because we see how easily it can be snatched away for any multitude of reasons. So yeah, just wanted to talk about this a little bit because it kind of got thrust back into the limelight here with Ubisoft making these statements, and it's something I've been talking about on stream for a little while now. That's about it. So yeah. There is no company on the planet that deserves its failure more than Ubisoft. Just take a peek at their stock price right now and it'll tell you a beautiful story about a company that's so out of touch that now it is going through a catastrophic collapse where its shares are worth less than shoelaces. I've blabbered on, ranting about Poopysoft till the cows came home, so I'm not here to just do that again. Instead, I want to focus on their most recent blunder, where they just released another NFT game in 2024. 2,024 years after the death of Jesus, they have released 2 NFT games, 3 years after the death of NFTs. This is their second rodeo here, releasing NFT games this year. They've released 2 NFT games in a month of each other. That's like releasing Madam Web twice this year, except these are flopping even harder and even more embarrassing. Their previous one was called Champion Tactics fucking Goober Chronicles or something. But the only thing Ubisoft champions, the only tactic they're championing, is putting fart from my butt onto the blockchain. I don't know who's actually the head honcho at Ubisoft, but whoever their leader is objectively the stupidest person on the planet. If you walked into the office of the Ubisoft CEO, you would be walking into the domain of the world's dumbest man. I keep using the word baffling, but it actually is just mind-boggling how this company can be this bad at the one thing they're supposed to be doing, making games. They're allergic to making good games, and at this point, they're just downright allergic to making games. They're pushing NFT slop shovelware now. So they already did the Champion Tactics, and now they have a new NFT game featuring one of their most beloved IP, Rayman, except it's not really a Rayman game, it's an NFT game. It's just a full-blown NFT game called Captain Laserhawk. You see, Ubisoft released another NFT game, Captain Laserhawk the Game. Nope. They released another NFT game? Oh, God! No way the game plays like that, right? This has to just be the recording. Oh, jeepers. Well, I mean, it's Ubisoft. It really might play like this. This is a Ubisoft game. You said this is an NFT game? Let me see. How is it? I mean, it looks like an NFT game, but what do they do? Captain Laserhawk the game from Ubisoft. I have to buy my ID card. Complete your pre-admission and reveal your ID card, your key to play Captain Laserhawk the game. Citizenship service. Owning one of the 10,000 IDs will transform you into a Niji, a brave warrior of Eden. You'll have the power to shape the future of this world and chance to earn exclusive rewards of great value reserved for your rank. It's unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable. 2 NFT games from Ubisoft this year, within the last month. That's amazing. I know there's only 10,000 IDs. We need to act quick. They're flying off the shelf. How much is the ID? Good question. Here, the December 11th, the Niji Warrior IDs were minted. 3 days ago, early access. Then we have public. It's a transmedia gaming adventure where the community drives the narrative through innovative governance. How innovative. And if the game runs like this video, you are actually paying to play a game at 3 FPS. What a joke. Hold on, I have to see another video. Maybe it really is just that. Oh, good news, that is actually the only video on it. Not a single other piece of footage exists. Love that. Ubisoft, you've done it again. A smash hit. The game is a competitive online top-down multiplayer shooter game developed by Ubisoft. When will they learn that putting their name on things makes people less likely to buy it? They should be hiding that fact, honestly. Like, if they want to make more sales, they should just take their name off of shit, or use an alias. Eden Online is the layer which gives power to the community when it comes to decision-making for the game updates each season. Eligibility to play the game in early access will be reflected by ownership of a Citizen ID card. Eden Online has a limited capacity of 10,000 seats for citizenship. The game beta will be available at the end of... Yeah, we're past that, I already know that. I'm curious, what do the delusional NFT Twitter community members think? They weren't super thrilled about the last Ubisoft stinker. Still nothing positive yet. There's only a few posts about it, too. The only post that has any real traction is from IGN saying Ubisoft has secretly launched a new game that features Rayman through its powered NFTs and blockchain in the year 2024. Not even the NFT people that actually buy fucking popsicle sticks as long as they're minted on the blockchain is biting on this one. You've done it again, Ubisoft. Click your buy ID card to see prices. Alright, let me see. Oh man, these all seem so reasonable. I don't know how much is this in money? Someone convert the Ethereum for me. It's 18 to 19 USD. Okay. So it's an $18 to $19 early access NFT game. I don't see how that can fail. I can't believe more people aren't biting. Especially for some of the rare globulins. I already forgot what they call these stupid fucking things. Eden elitists? Jesus, did anyone buy a single one? It looks like all 10,000 ID cards are still here. Oh my god. Look at the top, it says 3,000 owners. Oh yeah, 3.2k owners. Wonder how many of that's held by a development team. Ubisoft's innovation is crazy. It is. Captain Laserhawk is actually a cool show. It has Rayman doing cocaine and eating sushi off of a naked cowgirl's ass. What? What do you mean? The cocaine I can almost understand for Rayman, but what do you mean naked cowgirl's ass? Holy Lord, you're right. And this is not what I thought. When you said naked cowgirl, I thought you meant like a human being, like a cowboy, but woman. No, it is literally a female cow with titties and butt cheeks. And he is actually eating sushi out of her ass, like, no, like just straight up. What? What is this show? Wait, that sounds unhinged. Isn't Rayman a kid's game? Well, I thought so, but I don't think it is. I absolutely cannot pull this up on screen. I'm not exaggerating either. You can't see her nipples, but you can see the big fucking honkers, and he is pulling a sushi roll out of her asshole. Either way, though, this show definitely looks a lot better than the NFT Ubisoft game. That's for damn sure. I don't know why Ubisoft keeps making NFT games in 2024. X-Defiant died for this. Yeah, Ubisoft had to shut down X-Defiant so they could take all the people working on it and instead put them on, I already forgot what this was called, Captain Laserhawk, NFT Eden Online Adventure. Ubisoft, once a titan in the gaming industry, now a clown. Getting dangerously close to becoming Blockbuster right before our little peepers here. It just keeps getting worse for them. Yesterday they announced they're shutting down X-Defiant, which was their big game. Like, this is the game that for the last year they had been putting all of their elbow grease into. They were spitting in both of their hands, getting down and dirty, trying to push this game to everyone as much as possible. There was a lot of hype in the betas. People were saying, oh, this could actually be a competitor to Call of Duty. But unfortunately, when the game fully released, that hype was no longer there. People were about as excited for X-Defiant as they are to learn that I'm 5'6". It's one of those things where it had a chance in the beginning, but because of not striking while the iron was hot, like, it had a period where Call of Duty wouldn't have been out for another, like, handful of months. X-Defiant could have grabbed some market share, but they couldn't release in the right time period, in my opinion. And when it did fully release, it was too close to Call of Duty, so most people just decided, I'll just wait. And it didn't have enough unique elements to it to make it feel overly different from COD to a point where it could be better than it. So people dropped it pretty quick too. But I actually found it to be a really fun game, just didn't have staying power. And yesterday, Ubisoft said, we're not even going to give it a chance. We're not even going to let it try and evolve into something that can compete with COD. We're just going to throw our hands up, wave the white flag, and surrender. They released this message to the players. Thank you for your incredible dedication and support of X-Defiant. Regret to inform you that we're initiating the sunset process starting today. That makes it sound like the ending to, like, Iron Giant or something. Like they're about to fly out into the sunset and, like, self-destruct. December 3rd, 2024. As a result, new download, player registrations, and purchases will no longer be available. Season 3 will still launch, so stay tuned for more updates to come. The servers will remain active and the game will be fully playable until June 3rd. There's a personal message from the executive producer as well, which I'll go over in a second. They then expressed that they will be giving full refunds for anyone who bought the Ultimate Founders Pack, as well as people who made VC and DLC purchases since November 3rd. At least there will be refunds given to players here. With Ubisoft on this title, I thought there was a pretty good chance that they'd just say, hey, tough luck, is what it is. Your fault. It shouldn't have spent money on it, I guess. Like, I am kind of surprised, but pleasantly surprised that they are giving refunds. It's a free-to-play game that relies on microtransactions, and I don't know why companies like Ubisoft can't recognize that a lot of the time, the reason people don't want to spend money in games like this isn't even because they don't like the game or don't want to support it or something. It's because no one knows exactly how long it's going to be around for. So what's the point in forking over clams for some skins for a game that might not exist in 2 months? It's just a waste of money, and most people are just hesitant because this keeps happening. Games keep closing really quickly after launching, so no one really has a lot of trust that it's going to be around for a while, so why waste money on it, you know? I don't know, like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're disappointed that the game's not getting more microtransactions, so it's not sustainable, but it's also not getting microtransactions and not sustainable because people think it might close in a couple of months, and now it is closing in a couple of months, confirming their fears. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? I think there's quite a few reasons why this game failed, and it's not because I think the game is bad. In fact, I actually do like the game, like I said. There were just some things that were suboptimal about it, like I mentioned, the release time period, as well as constantly postponing it from the beta, which had a lot of hype. There were some steps that ensured that it didn't stand that great of a chance of actually competing against COD. I went over some more of them on stream, so I'll play those clips real quick, and then I'll get into that personal message from the executive producer. Yeah, I did want to mention the Ubisoft stuff before starting. It just popped up for me, and I was looking at it, so real quick, I'm sure a lot of you saw this. Ubisoft is already shutting down XDefiant. This thing barely had a longer lifespan than Concord. Man, the L's for Ubisoft just keep coming. That's not true. They had multiple betas. That's not the full release, brother. I think one of the big reasons why this game ended up flopping... Well, flopping's not even the right word, because during beta, people were super hyped for it, but they kept postponing the actual release, and by the time it actually released, it was already too close to Call of Duty that had a lot of positive hype, and that absolutely took wind out of its sails. I also think the biggest reason that it didn't survive very long is because they relegated to the sarcophagus of Uplay. Nobody wants to download Uplay for any reason. The only reason people even have Uplay is because they're forced to for Siege. If not for Siege, nobody would have this. And the only way to get XDefiant was through Uplay. So by not being on Steam and being like readily accessible on PC, I think that destroyed their chances. Skull and Bones is still up. It'll save this sinking ship. That's true. They still have their quadruple A Skull and Bones. Everyone loves Skull and Bones. But it's actually not just XDefiant that's getting the plug pulled on them. I read this as well. Well, man, it's not letting me open the whole tweet. But Ubisoft is closing a lot of their studios. They're cutting 277 positions through these closures. Ubisoft is getting gadooshed in stock price, in everything, from all angles. Old Ubisoft was good. Old Ubisoft had bangers. New Ubisoft releases NFT games in 2024. It is such a shame, man. I did like XDefiant during beta, but once it came full release, I didn't touch it. There was other games that it was competing with, like it released in the middle of other games I was playing. Never went to it. Then I just played the new Call of Duty when it came. If Assassin's Creed Shadows fall, if Assassin's Creed Shadows doesn't go ballistic, I think Ubisoft gets purchased by a different entity. I think Tencent takes them. That's my little game theory. That is their last hope, and I don't have a lot of faith in Assassin's Creed Shadows because I think most people like myself are kind of fatigued with it. I'm always shooting spitballs at Ubisoft, and this one warrants a big loogie going through the pipes. It is brutal. Absolutely tragic. Well, not tragic. It's Ubisoft's own fault. It's not like the universe is working against them. Ubisoft themselves is working against their best interests. So they're shutting down Ubisoft San Francisco and Osaka. And then they're downsizing elsewhere, so it's around 277 people that are about to lose their jobs from it. What was the budget for XDefiant? I'm gonna speculate. I would guess between 50 and 100 million. Especially, that's not taking in marketing, but with especially like the amount of faith they had in this, I would think anything, it's 80 million. Like they put their nuts in it. They went really hard with trying to push XDefiant as the COD killer. Didn't quite pan out. The only thing that will ever kill COD is COD. Yeah, I think COD's at a point where people are so married to it, they're not just going to up and abandon it for something else, especially in an age where games are closing within a month or two of launch. Like, yes, XDefiant had betas. A lot of hype in the betas, but they kept pushing the actual release further and further down the road. When it finally comes out, people aren't playing it, there's not a lot of faith in Ubisoft, and they do end up closing doors pretty quickly. So it's hard for people to even buy into a franchise because you don't know how long it's going to be around for. Games last about as long as fucking mosquitoes now. So people don't like Ubisoft Connect because you need to be online. They have lots of microtransactions. Solution, I'm probably online anyways if I'm using PC to game, and I just simply don't buy the microtransactions. I don't get the overwhelming hate everyone has for it. Spoken like a man who's never opened Ubisoft or Uplay in your life. It's significantly more than that. That is single-handedly the worst launcher that has ever been constructed by human beings. The fact that it's even allowed to exist is an affront to God. That shit is turbo cheeks. Just do me a favor, to the guy that said that, download Rainbow Six Siege right now, make a Uplay account, and tell me how long it takes you to actually open that game. You have to open Uplay like 12 different times just to even see the menu. It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. In the more personal message, the executive producer goes over the journey as well as the goal to develop a new arcade shooter as well as shake up the genre by removing skill-based matchmaking, bringing back a more old-school arcade shooter experience, and also free to play. Now, real quick, I want to chime in there. I have been pretty outspoken that I'm not the biggest fan of skill-based matchmaking. A lot of people complain about it. There is a lot of whining when it comes to skill-based matchmaking. It's a very controversial, divisive debate. I believe that we had it figured out 20 years ago with Halo 2, where you can have a fully casual playlist with no skill-based matchmaking whatsoever, and then you can have your ranked playlist, which is all skill-based matchmaking. And I understand there's probably plenty of data that a lot of these soulless husks and suits at the top of the food chain at these game companies have looked at that says that if you have skill-based matchmaking, your super stinkers that can barely press 2 buttons at the same time are more likely to stick with your game because they'll be matched with people of equal ineptitude. So I understand that for player retention, I guess skill-based matchmaking is the gold standard, but truly I will never see the harm in just reverting back to caveman. Go back to Halo 2, where, yes, in your casual game modes, you'll have some people that are teaming up with friends that are much worse than them, and they will wash the opponents. It happens. But it's a social game mode there. It has no meaning. It's not the fucking esports world championship. It's a casual game mode. I realize it might not be fun to be on the receiving end of that cheek clapping, but you go next. It happens. It's equally as not fun to go into a casual game mode and still have people sweating their ass off like they're playing ranked and trying out for fucking T1 or something. Like, it's still not great either, especially if you're playing with friends that are worse than you and you happen to bring in players that are much better than them. It's just a lot more fun when it's completely random. Just people that queue up for casual to just have a good time. And it's a problem that solves itself, by the way, because people will start to recognize that, oh, if I want to play against people of a similar skill level to me, if I want to play against people that are just as shitty as I am, instead of doing casual where I won't know, I'll go to ranked where I'm actually dog shit elo. So I'll play against people of dog shit elo. In Halo 2, if you wanted to make sure you played against people of the same caliber, you would go to ranked and you would play against level 3s and 4s. So that way you wouldn't have to worry about getting stomped by someone that was, fucking smurfing in casual. Like, that was the whole point of it. And I just really think that system, at least for my personal tastes, was optimal. So I did appreciate that XDefiant tried to do something different by not using skill-based matchmaking. It clearly wasn't enough to get people hooked on the product or anything, but I don't think the lack of skill-based matchmaking was the reason this game failed. The executive producer thanks the development team, saying how great of a job they did at building this game, and then talks about some of the achievements here. So, they broke the internal record for fastest game to surpass 5 million users, and in the end they had over 15 million players play the game. Those are big boy numbers. Those are some very impressive numbers for sure. It's just, unfortunately, it wasn't able to hold on to that many players, but even still, that's something to be extremely proud of. The message goes on just to thank the player base and thank all the developers and everyone that made the game possible. I want to mention something that I briefly touched on stream. I feel like we're in an era of comfort games where people have already made their bed and they're lying in it with the games that they know they like, and they're games they will always play. And usually people aren't going to play multiple games in this genre, like, full-time. I say full-time, but I mean, like, as their main game. So if you're someone that likes hero shooters, most people are choosing Overwatch. There's not really another game that's beating Overwatch for hero shooters. Even as many tomatoes as that game gets tossed, it's still the king when it comes to hero shooter popularity. And Marvel Rivals is about to drop. I liked the beta for Marvel Rivals, but I would be very surprised if it was somehow able to even take a portion of the Overwatch player base to it. I'd like to be proven wrong, but I truly just believe people choose these games in these genres and they stick with that game, and they'll maybe tinker around, dip their toes into some of the other games that come out, like sprout up to try and compete with them, but never actually make a switch over to them. And another example is Call of Duty. How many times have we seen a Call of Duty killer pop up over the last decade? Too fucking many to count. And even a game like XDefiant, which did have huge player numbers, didn't have people stick with it because they'd rather just go back to their comfort game. Even though Call of Duty is getting a ton of shit, like a lot of people have been insulting the new Black Ops game, they still stick with it because it's their comfort game. That is their Call of Duty game, and they're not looking to find a replacement Call of Duty game, even though X-Defiant was comparable. X-Defiant I don't think was as fine-tuned as Call of Duty. Like, it's clearly hasn't been around as long as Call of Duty, so it doesn't have the formula down and the feels a little off. But overall, it had a lot of potential. It just never really had a chance to grow on it and evolve and reach that level because it wasn't sustainable, because it didn't have enough people playing it. And I do think a large portion of that can be attributed to Uplay itself. So congrats, Ubisoft, you put the clown nose on again. But overall, I really do think that if you're going to try and make a game to compete with a Call of Duty or an Overwatch, the odds are really stacked against you. Like, it's very, very, very slim chance of working out. Same with like live service games. Live service games are popping up and dying immediately all the time now because no one really wants a new live service game. If they want a live service game, they probably already found one like Destiny 2 or something. And even though Destiny 2 gets a lot of shit, most of the Destiny 2 player base isn't making the switch over to any other comparable live service game. I think people just would rather keep playing these games that they already are really familiar with and already sunk a lot of time or a lot of money into. And even though they'll try something like an X-Defiant that's in the same genre, it's never going to be something they're going to make a switch over and spend a ton of money for. I have been saying for a while, I think it's much better, money is much better spent in the game industry developing lower budget titles that don't try and compete with something like a Call of Duty. Like, just do lower budget, unique titles. Single player games are fucking crushing it. Like, look at the indie space right now. Indie games are going ballistic because most of them are focused on delivering a unique experience, and the majority of them are single player experiences. Like, I just played Mouthwashing last night. Amazing game. That was a 2.5-hour game, and that was money well spent. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and stop ranting about it. Point is, big Ubisoft L again, per usual. The Ubisoft stock price, I don't know how much lower it can possibly go. Soon, Ubisoft stock price will be worth about as much as the wrappers to the Magic the Gathering cards I open. It's fucking brutal. And it's their fault, too. Anyway, that's about it. See ya.